$50,000. That's the number you thought would change everything. You told yourself, once I hit 50K a year, I'll finally breathe. I won't feel behind. I won't stress every Sunday night. And then you hit it. And nothing changed. You still check your bank account before buying dinner. You still feel slightly anxious when rent hits. You still feel like everyone else is somehow further ahead. Here's the uncomfortable truth. There's a psychological wall at 50K. Not a financial one, a mental one. It's the point where you make decent money, but somehow still feel broke. And the reason isn't your income. It's what your brain quietly did the moment you crossed that line. Now let's talk about why 50K feels like it should have fixed everything. Here's the thing. For most of your life, $50,000 sounded rich. In college, that was a real adult salary. In high school, it felt like stability. It felt like proof you made it. So your brain built a story around it. At 50K, you'd stop stressing. At 50K, you'd start saving. At 50K, you'd finally feel ahead. Now wait, let's rewind to when you were making 30K or 35K. Back then, 50K looked like a 15K or 20K raise. That's massive. That's freedom money. But when you actually hit 50K, something subtle happened. Your rent upgraded, your car payment got slightly nicer, you started ordering food without checking prices, your subscriptions multiplied quietly in the background. Nothing extreme, nothing reckless, just small upgrades. This is where it gets ugly. Your income jumped in one clean move. Your lifestyle expanded in tiny, invisible steps. And tiny steps are dangerous because you don't feel them happening. So instead of feeling richer, you just created a more expensive version of normal. And that's where the real problem begins. Because it's not about money anymore. It's about identity. This is the part nobody warns you about. When your income rises, your identity quietly upgrades with it. You're no longer trying to make it, you're now someone who makes 50K. That sounds good, but your brain immediately adjusts what normal looks like. You stop comparing yourself to people making 30K. Now you compare yourself to people making 70K or 100K, or the guy on LinkedIn announcing his third promotion this year. Here's the thing. Progress only feels good when it's visible. And the moment 50K becomes your baseline, it stops feeling like progress. It feels average. Now wait, let's say you increased your income by 20K in 2 years. That's real growth, statistically strong growth. But emotionally, it feels small because your brain adapted faster than your bank account could impress you. This is called hedonic adaptation. Your mind recalibrates upward. The house that felt expensive now feels standard. The vacation that felt luxurious now feels expected. The lifestyle that once felt aspirational now feels ordinary. And once something feels ordinary, it stops giving you satisfaction. So you work harder, you chase the next raise, you aim for 60K, 75K, 80K. But the wall doesn't disappear because it was never about the number. It was about the gap between your expectations and your reality. Now let's do the math and see where the illusion really breaks down. All right, let's do the math. You make $50,000 a year. Sounds clean, sounds solid. Now remove taxes, federal, state, and payroll. Depending on where you live, you're taking home maybe 75 to 80%. So now your 50K is closer to $38,000 to $40,000. That's about $3,200 a month. Now let's subtract the fixed stuff. Rent, let's say $1,400. Car payment and insurance, maybe $500. Groceries, $400. Utilities and phone, $250. Health insurance or medical, $300. Subscriptions, gym, random auto pay charges, $150. We're already around $3,000, and we haven't touched eating out, travel, gifts, emergencies, or saving. This is where it gets uncomfortable. You thought you were making 50K, but in reality, your flexible money each month might be $200 to $400. That's it. And from that small margin, you're supposed to invest, build an emergency fund, enjoy life, and somehow feel ahead. Now you see the problem. The psychological wall at 50K exists because the gap between what you imagined and what's left over is massive. On paper, you're middle class. In practice, you're one unexpected expense away from stress, so your brain stays in scarcity mode, even though you technically crossed the line you once dreamed about. And that's why earning more didn't remove the anxiety, because structurally nothing meaningful changed. But here's where it gets deeper. The real wall isn't just math, it's psychological wiring. Now we get to the real issue. The 50K wall isn't about income, it's about conditioning. If you grew up watching money disappear quickly, if you saw adults stress about bills, if you learned that money comes and goes, that wiring doesn't disappear just because your salary increased. Your nervous system still reacts the same way. You still feel slightly unsafe spending. You still hesitate before investing. You still carry the fear of falling backwards. Here's the thing. When you finally hit 50K, your brain doesn't say, "We made it." It says, "Don't lose it." And that changes everything. Instead of thinking like an investor, you think like a protector. Instead of building assets, you focus on maintaining lifestyle. Instead of optimizing long-term growth, you optimize short-term comfort. This is where it gets ugly. Scarcity mode follows you upward. So even though you earn more, you still feel fragile. You don't feel wealthy, you feel exposed. Now add hedonic adaptation on top of that. Your expenses normalized upward, your expectations normalized upward, but your sense of security didn't. That gap creates quiet anxiety, and anxiety makes you make small, defensive financial decisions. You delay investing, you justify lifestyle upgrades, you avoid looking at net worth, because the number feels smaller than it should. So you push harder at work. You chase 60K, 75K, 80K. But unless your psychology changes, the wall simply moves. And that's why some people feel broke at 50K and others feel broke at 150K. The number isn't the prison. The mindset is. Now let's talk about what actually changes when you break through it. Here's what most people get wrong. Breaking the 50K wall isn't about earning 75K. It's about shifting from income thinking to asset thinking. At first, your focus is survival. Then it becomes lifestyle. But the breakthrough happens when it becomes ownership. Instead of asking, "How do I make more?" you start asking, "What do I own?" Savings, investments, skills that compound, assets that work without your direct time. This is where it gets powerful. When your net worth starts growing, even slowly, your anxiety drops because you're no longer dependent on next month's paycheck alone. You have margin, you have optionality, and optionality is what actually feels like freedom, not the salary number. Once you see money as something that builds systems instead of purchasing comfort, the wall weakens. You stop upgrading your lifestyle with every raise. You start upgrading your balance sheet. And that's when progress becomes visible again. Now let's talk about how to reset your mindset so you can break this wall intentionally. So here's the reset. Stop treating 50K like a destination. It's a foundation. If you hit it, good. That means you built earning power. But earning power is only step one. Step two is creating distance between what you make and what you need, not through extreme deprivation, through controlled stability. Cap lifestyle upgrades for 1 year, automate investing before upgrading comfort, track net worth, not just income. Here's the thing. When your assets grow quietly in the background, your brain starts feeling safe. And when you feel safe, you stop chasing numbers emotionally. The 50K wall isn't broken by earning more. It's broken when you realize the number was never supposed to change your life. Your structure was. And once your structure changes, the wall disappears. Not because you're rich, but because you finally feel in control.